If I told you that with just $100,000, you could own a luxury home near the sea, in a warm climate, with a cost of living of only $200 a month, would you believe it? Not in America, but in countries that are opening their arms to welcome foreigners. While housing prices in Florida or California keep climbing every week across the ocean, sunlit apartments, $10 seafood meals, and a life free from crushing bills are still waiting for you. This video is a journey through 5 countries where Americans can buy a home for just $100,000 and live comfortably before 2026. No big investments, no complicated visas, just one decision: to step out of the old routine and start again. And you won't believe it. Sometimes paradise is only a cheap autumn flight away. Dream it, pack it, go. 5. Colombia, the land of 1,000 springs. In October 2025, the world once again mentioned Medellin. Not for its flowers, coffee, or the eternal sunshine of the Andes, but because thousands of its residents took to the streets in a demonstration supporting Palestine. Voices echoed through the valley, flags filled the streets, and those who once lived through the darkest times of the city now stood there, proud, strong, asserting their voice. To outsiders, it was politics. But to the people of Medellin, it was a symbol of rebirth. Proof that the place once tied to Pablo Escobar has now become one of the most free, creative, and humane cities in South America. Imagine standing on a small balcony in El Poblado, opening the window in the morning, and before you is the Aburrá Valley bathed in sunlight, with endless green mountains stretching in the distance. Birds glide through the clouds, reggaeton music drifts from a nearby cafe, and the air is just cool enough for you to enjoy a cup of rich Colombian coffee without needing air conditioning. Here, spring never leaves. The temperature stays between 22 and 25 degrees year-round, so pleasant that people call this place by a name that has become legendary: the City of Eternal Spring. 3 decades ago, Medellin was drowned in fear, violence, and gunfire. But today, it is a symbol of rebirth. The city was once named the most innovative city in the world by the Wall Street Journal and Citigroup, a title earned not only for its technology or architecture, but for the resilience of people who chose light over darkness. Here, every wall tells a story. Comuna 13, once a hotbed of conflict, has become an open-air graffiti museum. Every hill, every salsa rhythm seems to echo one message: no past is heavy enough to stop a city from rising again. Medellin is a place where, with just $100,000, an amount not even enough for a year's mortgage in California, you can buy a small but dreamlike apartment. In neighborhoods like El Poblado or Laureles, modern condos with swimming pools, gyms, mountain view balconies, and 24/7 security await you. Homes here are bright, with wooden interiors and glass doors that flood the space with light. Property taxes are extremely low, maintenance costs are cheap, and most importantly, foreigners are allowed to own property outright. Many Americans have left Florida, New York, or Texas to move to Medellin, because here, $1,000 a month is enough for a comfortable life. Good food, nice housing, full health care, and still some left to travel. The cost of living in Medellin is about 65–70% lower than in the U.S. A lunch at a restaurant costs only $3. A cup of handcrafted roasted coffee is 1.5. A metro ticket is less than $1. You'll find it strange to live in a modern city with a subway, green parks, and clean streets, yet receive monthly bills that make you smile. Not because you're rich, but because at last, you get to live lightly. Healthcare in Colombia is one of the things that surprises American retirees the most. Hospitals like Pablo Tobón Uribe or Clínica Las Américas meet international standards, and many doctors were trained in the US or Europe. A full medical checkup costs only about $40–60, and if you buy private insurance, the cost is just 1/5 of what it is in the US. In Medellin, health is not a worry. It's something you can comfortably maintain every day, surrounded by fresh air and a gentle pace of life. And then there's one thing everyone admits once they arrive. The people here. They speak fast, laugh loud, and always have time for a conversation. Whether you're American, African, or Asian, you'll be welcomed with a genuine smile. They may not speak English fluently, but their eyes say everything. They are proud of their city, their coffee, and the flowers that bloom each August during the Feria de las Flores, when all of Medellin turns into a giant garden. And when night falls, the reggaeton music, the lights, and the salsa dances make you realize youth never disappears. It just changes shape in a new rhythm of life. Of course, no place is perfect. Medellin still has a few areas that are less safe, especially on the outskirts. But if you choose to live in the central districts, El Poblado or Laureles, you'll find this city gentler and friendlier than you might expect. Language can be a barrier, but it's also a bridge. Learning a few Spanish phrases each day not only helps you integrate, but also opens doors to genuine relationships, something not every country can offer you. Medellin doesn't try to pretend it's a retirement paradise. It simply stays true to itself, warm, resilient, and smiling after the storm. Here, you don't need to be rich to live well, nor young to start again. You just need the courage to change your perspective. You may realize that what makes people fall in love with Medellin isn't just the climate or the housing prices. It's that feeling every morning when you wake up, open your door, see the light mist over the valley, hear the distant music, and whisper to yourself, "Finally, I've chosen the right place." And if you're watching this video, maybe your heart is also searching for a place like that. A place where you don't just live, but truly come alive again. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment on the country you'd like me to tell next. Who knows, your dream retirement journey might begin right from the next story. 4. Thailand. The Kingdom of Smiles and Serenity. What would you think if I told you that with just $100,000 you could buy a bright apartment 10 minutes from downtown with a swimming pool, a gym, and every morning you'd wake up to the sound of monks chanting from an ancient temple instead of the rush of traffic? Would you believe me if I said that's completely real? Right here in Chiang Mai, the city known as the heart of northern Thailand. One morning earlier this year, I met David, an American from Portland, on the wooden porch of his house in Chiang Mai. He had just finished brewing a pot of strong black coffee and smiled. In the U.S., I spent my whole life saving to buy a house. Here, I just sold my old car. David's apartment is in the Nimmenhiemen area, home to hundreds of cafes, co-working spaces, and a lively night market. He bought it for $97,000, fully furnished, with a balcony facing the misty Doi Suthep Mountains. In the U.S., I used to pay $2,400 a month for a two-bedroom apartment. Now my total monthly expenses in Thailand don't even reach $1,000. Every day I just have to choose spa first or pad Thai first. Chiang Mai isn't just cheap, it's slow. Not the lazy kind of slow, but the kind that reminds you life isn't a race. In the morning, temple bells echo through the mist. In the afternoon, you can sit at a cafe watching old men feed birds in the park. At night, red lanterns hang across the old town, and you feel time itself pause. Here, beauty isn't found in speed, but in rhythm. What makes Thailand special is its balance between modernity and spirituality. In Bangkok, life spins fast around glass towers, malls, and BTS trains. But in Chiang Mai, people choose to live differently, gently, kindly, smiling for no particular reason. That's why they call it the land of smiles. Not because everyone's happy, but because they know smiling is the simplest way to survive this life. Americans retire in Thailand for many reasons. The cost of living is almost absurdly low. A single person can live comfortably on just $200 a month. The food is amazing, healthcare is excellent, and, yes, Massage services are everywhere, both legitimate and very creative. Hospitals like Bumrungrad or Bangkok Hospital are rated among the best in Asia. Doctors speak good English, and prices are so low that many Americans fly here for dental care and end up staying for good. Of course, no paradise is perfect. In Thailand, you can't own land, only buy a condo, and only if the total foreign ownership in the building doesn't exceed 49%. And if you want a retirement visa, you must show 800,000 baht, about $22,000 in your bank account, or an income of 65,000 baht per month. It sounds complicated, but once it's done, you get to live in a place where, even at the hospital, you're greeted with a Y and a smile. Chiang Mai is safe, friendly, and especially ideal for Americans who want to live simply, but not boringly. Here, there's a large expat community, plenty of art cafes, weekend markets, yoga, and meditation classes, and people who make you believe that happiness doesn't need much magic, just good weather, good food, and a few friends who know how to laugh with you. I once asked David, if you went back to the US, what would you miss the most? He laughed, pointed to his flip-flops, and said, I think the fact that here I can live an entire month without wearing shoes. That answer, simple but true, sums up the spirit of Chiang Mai. Freedom, relaxation, and no need to prove anything to anyone. So, if one day you get tired of bills, morning traffic, and gray rainy evenings after work, try coming to Thailand. You might realize that happiness isn't about where you come from. It's about being in a place that makes you smile every time you open your eyes. Comment below. I choose to live in the land of smiles. Who knows? A few months from now, you might actually be sitting somewhere in Chiang Mai, sipping coffee, smiling softly, and thinking to yourself, it's hard to believe. My $100,000 just bought me an entirely new life. 3. Mexico, the land of sunshine and smiling homes. This past July, U.S. media reported that over 90,000 Americans are leaving their homeland to settle in Mexico, turning cities like Mérida, Playa del Carmen, and Puerto Vallarta into Little America, tropical edition. Many joke that Mexico is now the place where you can run into your old neighbor from Texas at a taco stand. Only this time, they're smiling, healthy, and debt-free. Among that wave is Marianne, a 62-year-old retired elementary school teacher from Arizona. She said that back in the U.S., her life revolved around bills, insurance, and crowded mornings in discount supermarkets. I used to think retirement meant the end of joy, she said, until I set foot in Mérida. When I met her, Marianne was standing in front of a white house trimmed with blue, lined with small cacti along the fence. The house is 90 square meters, with a backyard, open kitchen, and a small pool. She bought it for $96,000, 2 years' worth of her pension in the U.S. What surprises me, she laughed, is that every morning I wake up and the only thing I worry about is whether to have burritos or grilled fish for lunch. Mexico is a strange place, where the heat melts into smiles. In Mérida, people live slower than the clock and laugh longer than the news. On summer afternoons, sunlight glows through yellow-painted walls, turning the whole city into a giant painting. At night, the central plaza bursts with mariachi music, children laughing by coconut ice cream carts, and adults drinking cold beer, chatting about politics mixed with gardening. Here, you don't need to be rich to live well. One person can live comfortably on just $800 to $1,000 a month, including housing, utilities, food, coffee, and even a few beach trips each week. With $100,000, you can't even buy a garage in California, but in Mexico, you can buy a bright house in Mérida or a beachfront apartment in Puerto Vallarta, big enough to host a small party and quiet enough to hear the waves every night. Property taxes here are extremely low, only about 0.1% of the home's value per year. And healthcare? That's what surprises many Americans. In Mexico, private medical services meet international standards. Doctors speak English, and the cost is only one-third of what it is in the US. Many retirees come here for medical tourism, dental work, minor surgery, checkups, and then decide never to leave. Of course, not everything is perfect. Mexico has two seasons, hot and very hot. If you've ever complained about the Florida sun, imagine 37-degree-C heat with dry winds blowing from the Yucatan desert, a kind of little challenge from nature. And if you live away from the city center, sometimes a rooster will wake you up at 5 a.m., even though you don't own one. But that's also part of the charm that makes life here so real and so endearing. The most remarkable thing is the sense of safety. Mérida, where Marianne lives, consistently ranks among the safest cities in Latin America. The locals are kind, respectful toward foreigners, and especially friendly to older Americans. Many Mexican families treat their foreign neighbors like family, sharing meals, helping each other, and watching over their homes when they're away. And when asked why she doesn't go back to the US, Marianne just smiled. Because here, I feel like I'm still living, not just counting the days. It's hard to fully describe Mexico with numbers. It's not just the low cost of living or the charming $100,000 homes. It's the atmosphere that makes you believe everything can be simpler. Here, happiness doesn't need a gym membership or a fancy restaurant. Just a lazy afternoon, a margarita in hand, and the sun setting behind red-tiled roofs. If life back home has made you forget what it feels like to slow down, Mexico is the place that teaches you that lesson. Through the scent of fresh lime, the sound of guitar, and a peace that's rare to find. And if one day you come to Mérida, don't be surprised when your neighbor knocks on your door just to say, "I made some extra shrimp. Want to eat together?" Because that's Mexico. Simple, genuine, and gifted at turning strangers into friends. And what about you? If you had $100,000, would you choose a tiny apartment in the cold or a place with sun, waves, and people who make you smile just by being there? If your answer is maybe, then Mexico is ready. Hit like if you want to wake up under golden sunlight instead of fluorescent lights, and subscribe so you don't miss the next journeys. Because who knows, your next flight might just land right here. 2. Portugal, the land of slow sunsets. While Europe struggles with housing prices, Lisbon did the opposite. It banned Airbnb in the city center so locals could move back in. While Paris and Amsterdam grow louder, Lisbon chooses to slow down, preserving its soul in the sound of waves and the smell of pastel de nata in the morning. I met Tom, 68, from Seattle, at a cafe by the Tagus River. He sipped his espresso and smiled. In the US, I used to live in a house worth nearly $1 million, but I've never felt as rich as I do now. When with just $100,000, I bought a small house in Algarve, right by the sea, where I wake up to birds in the morning and fall asleep to the sound of the wind at night. That house is in Lagos, a town of red roofs, white walls, and winding streets like a painting. Here, $1,200 a month is enough to live comfortably. Food, utilities, insurance, and a few dinners by the ocean. A cup of coffee costs $1.50. A full seafood meal, less than $10. Honestly, Tom laughed, we only have two kinds of days here, sunny days and sunnier ones. The government offers a retirement residency program for those with an income over $1,000 per month. Light taxes, easy procedures, and Americans get 90 days visa-free. Without loud promotion, Portugal has quietly become the new destination for those who want to live with less, but deeper. In the mornings in Lisbon, people walk through sunlit hills, stopping to listen to the sound of a guitar drifting from a small cafe. In Algarve, life is so simple that you forget what day it is. Here, no one rushes. There's only wind, sun, and sea. The healthcare system ranks in the world's top 15, with impressively low costs. Doctor visits around $50, private insurance under $100 a month. Doctors are gentle, their smiles warm, and if you say obrigado, they'll smile back, as if welcoming you into their rhythm of life. Of course, Lisbon has its downsides: rising rent, Portuguese being hard to learn, and sometimes even Google Translate gives up against a fish vendor who speaks faster than a tram. But then you learn to laugh, gesture, and realize that everything feels much easier. Portugal doesn't try to overwhelm you. It simply opens the door gently and lets you walk in on your own. You'll love Lisbon not for its old houses, but for the golden light of every afternoon. You'll miss Algarve not for its blue sea, but for the morning mist over orange gardens and the long echo of church bells. Tom said, "In Seattle, I used to count every pension dollar. Here, I count sunsets." And perhaps that's why thousands choose Portugal. Not to live longer, but to live more truthfully. If one day you grow tired of the old rhythm of life, stop in Lisbon, order a glass of wine, and let the Atlantic breeze remind you. Freedom, sometimes, is simply the right to slow down. I will slow down, starting from Portugal. Who knows? A few months from now, you might actually be sitting by the sea in Lagos, sipping wine, and softly saying, "Yes, this is where I begin again." 1. Turkey, where the East awakens inside a Western dream. Last April, while the world was busy talking about interest rates and collapsing real estate markets, Istanbul quietly created a different kind of frenzy. Apartments under $100,000 along the Bosphorus were being snapped up by foreigners. People came for the low prices but stayed for something money couldn't buy: the feeling of living between two continents, two civilizations, and one indescribable soul. Morning in Istanbul begins with the call to prayer echoing from the Blue Mosque, spreading across the river and blending with the cries of seagulls. Before the sun even rises, simit bakeries open their doors, and the scent of toasted sesame drifts through the narrow cobblestone streets. This city never stays silent, yet within the noise, there's a strange kind of peace, as if even chaos knows how to keep its own rhythm. I met Mark, a 58-year-old photographer from Chicago, in the Kadıköy district. He bought a small apartment facing the Marmara Sea for $94,000, with an old stone balcony and the sound of cats meowing every morning. "Here, time has a smell," he said. The smell of strong coffee, rusty iron, and toasted bread. When I asked why he didn't go back to America, he simply smiled. "Here, I feel like I'm living, not just waiting to grow old." The cost of living in Istanbul is around $1,000 a month, including housing, food, morning coffee, and a few ferry rides to the European side. A glass of Turkish tea costs just 40 cents, and a seafood dinner about $10. The private healthcare system is modern, the doctors are friendly, and you can see one the very same day. In Turkey, everything seems temporary, but the people live with lasting sincerity. When sunset falls, Istanbul becomes as magical as an old film scene. On the Galata Bridge, people still fish. Below, fairy lights shimmer on the water like golden silk. In the distance, the sound of the oud mingles with prayers, and suddenly, your heart slows down. Turkey isn't perfect. Inflation, shifting visa rules, and sometimes harsh weather. But this place holds something many richer nations have lost: a soul. The Turks still invite you for tea, still tell stories with their eyes, and still believe that every sunrise brings new hope. Mark said that on his first night here, he woke up at 5 a.m. to the sound of prayer. He thought about covering his ears but stayed still. "When I listened closely," he said, "I realized it wasn't just the call of religion, it was a reminder. Wake up. Life is still beautiful." When I left Istanbul, the sky was drenched in sunset. Seagulls flew over the domes, and the scent of cinnamon mixed with the salty breeze. I suddenly understood. Perhaps no one truly leaves this place, because everyone who's ever been here carries a small piece of Turkey in their heart, the part that dares to live fiercely, no matter how fast the world spins. If one day life feels too quiet, come here to hear history breathe, to stand between Asia and Europe, and to realize that not every place makes your heart want to beat faster again. Like, subscribe, and comment. I want to hear the call to prayer as the sun rises over Istanbul, because who knows? One morning, you just might. Some people travel halfway across the world not to change where they live, but to change how they live. They leave behind expensive cities, car horns, and endless bills to find again the sound of the wind, of laughter, and of their own breathing. The world is wider than we think, and sometimes freedom is just one brave decision away. Not to escape, but to return to the things that once made us happy. A gentle morning, a peaceful meal, a sunset without hurry. If your heart is speaking, listen to it. Because perhaps the life you've been searching for is waiting for you somewhere very real.